You have to choose yourself. You have to choose you over and over and over and again and again and again and again. Even when it gets tiring. Look at me. You can't just give up. I know that you want to. I know that it makes sense on some level, too. But you are the opportunity of a lifetime. Against all odds, you made it here on this plane of existence. Come on. I know that it feels bad. I know that it feels really bad right now. Trust me, babe, I know how you feel right now. Your heart feels really activated, right? And it feels like you're gonna die because they chose somebody else, or they said you matter to them. They care deeply about you. But they're deprioritizing you and prioritizing other things in their life, including other people. And that sucks. It sucks so bad. And it hurts a lot because on a lot of different levels, in the world that we live in, and also probably too in the way that you grew up or experiences that you've had with others, you know, you were trained on a lot of levels to put your worth and self-esteem in the hands of other people, which is incredibly dangerous and unsustainable, not super healthy, and not a good model for evaluating objectively your own self-worth or value. Because for other people, you and experiencing you might be really wonderful and amazing and at the same time, they might still have other priorities. And that's not a reflection of who you are, even necessarily what you mean to them, but also sometimes it does. Sometimes it shows, and also with their actions, it shows that you don't mean as much to them as they mean to you, or things that are more convenient or are easier to access are their priorities, or what they're working on, or what they're going to school for, whatever it is, you know. It could also just be that the person that you need attention from, or you think you need attention from, or want to be valued by, is an asshole. I'm just going to say it, you know. It is a possibility. That being said, you know, I also think that it's more than anything, even though you probably feel like you're gonna die right now, because I know what that's like. And it's a big part of it is this path, this like sort of neurochemical path, um, where your brain is receiving either a message or a trigger or feeling activated because you saw either evidence that you're being abandoned, evidence that somebody else matters to this person more, or otherwise. You have an emblazoned neurochemical pathway to anxiety and fear from previous experiences where somebody either acting this way or acting some kind of way where you weren't being prioritized or seen as a favorite person meant that you were being left or abandoned or not valued or trampled on. And this is the precursor to either more hurt and harm, or, and sometimes it's true, right? It's not there for no reason. But this pathway in your brain is a sort of fossil. Maybe fossil's not the best word. It's not that it's ancient. It's happened in your lifetime, right? And it can also be generational, this kind of trauma as well. But it's a kind of remnant of previous harm, things that other people did to you, people who have abandoned you before. These sort of red flags or markers that your brain has put down to say, we're going down this path again. Sometimes that's not the case. It could be true. And I'm not saying to ignore your intuition. That being said, though, the amount of fear and anxiety and stress you're feeling over this situation and also over relationships in general, that where you cyclically experience and re-experience these feelings because of either because that's part of your attachment style, because of how you've experienced harm and how you've coped with that harm, is not worth it. It's not worth it. Your brain and body is trying to keep you safe. It's important and valuable in that way. But feeling this constantly and consistently activated over something that ultimately, even if you're right, because you can be, even if you're right, even if you're going to be broken up with, even if somebody has lied to you or has been gaslighting you, it's fucked up. I'm not saying it's not fucked up, because it is. Okay? It completely and totally ruining your peace even before the harm has happened, even at the point where precursors to the sort of big harm is happening, to the point where even if no harm is down the road, but people are practicing, for example, prioritizing certain things or boundaries, and you're at this level of like flipping out and being this activated, this stressed out about it, to the point where it's like a chronic way that you exist in relationships is not healthy for you and your brain and your life and your body. Holding this much stress over potential harm, because you can't be in the moment or in the present, because your brain has this like already pre-fired up trail to pain that is experienced and saying, we're going down this path again. Start freaking out. Again, it can be the truth. You could be really right. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not going to say that I know what's happening. You know, if you can, practice holding your wrists to tell your body, right now, nothing horrible is happening. I heard your message. Either holding yourself or holding here, pressing firmly, telling your vagus nerve and your nervous system, hey, I heard your message. Thank you for telling me. You don't have to keep being activated anymore. Letting out a breath. Telling yourself, right now, I'm okay. Because how you respond to these things is important. How you hold yourself. If you need to block them, if you need to mute them, do it. Your peace is important. If you're already at a point where it has been discussed or communicated, like, hey, I want to put us on pause. Hey, I want us to prioritize ourselves or other things. If we're already there and it's disturbing your peace, feel free to block, soft block, mute, do whatever you gotta do. I don't know, deactivate your socials if that's a place specifically, which a lot of the times it can be, where it's causing you to feel really activated. Do it. Because getting continuously activated over it is not going to help you get better or prioritize yourself or move on if that's what's happening. But if it's not necessarily the case where priorities have been talked about being shifted, but you're finding yourself getting either jealous, activated, freaking out over these things, like having a conversation about it. Being honest, not making yourself or your feelings smaller than they are or feel, but also not being like accusatory or blaming them for your feelings. Just naming, this is where I am right now. Are there ways that you can either reassure me, like name it and talk about it? Ultimately, also, that can be an extremely scary and terrifying experience. And sometimes having those conversations puts you in a space where you have to be in the space where you have to confront stuff that you feared were going to be true, and they end up being true. But it's better to know than to like be in your head about it, beat yourself up about it, and not have an answer or not have communication. I know that it feels bad. I know that it sucks. But know that just because somebody that is special to you or that you care about or love doesn't prioritize you doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be prioritized or that your needs don't matter. Because also ultimately your needs are showing up also for you to recognize and acknowledge them, for you to say, I heard your message. I understand where you're coming from. I'll take care of you. And again, this is not to say that you just need to take care of your own needs and that self-reliance and hyper independence is not also in and of itself also like not always the healthiest either. Ideally, you can ask your friends, loved ones, and family for support and care, because care is not supposed to happen in a vacuum. And sometimes you can't give yourself care, but a lot of the times, even little things like being able to hold yourself, massage yourself, take care of yourself as if you are like literally and genuinely like physically sick, sometimes gives you that sort of like space to reflect and heal. It's can be super awful. Right now I'm going through something very, very similar. Believe it or not. And you know, ultimately, like I said, you have to choose yourself again and again and again and again and again, even when other people aren't. You have to tell yourself, and you have to know in your heart that you are worth it, and that validation will not and cannot fully come from another being. I have a puppy who is obsessed with me. You know her. You know how she is. She's very much like this. I feel like sometimes we're similar in that way. I think I'm a little better than her though. But her separation anxiety is horrible. It's just awful. She doesn't know what to do when I'm away from her. And it is a really big mirror for me to see how frustrating it can feel to be on the other side, because I'm still a person. I love her with my whole heart, but I can't be everything and everywhere and like there with her 24/7 all the time. There are places she can't go. There are things I have to do on my own. You know? Not to say that you're necessarily like bringing that kind of energy into this, but it's for me it's a good place to reflect and see if you understand my meaning. But at the same time, when I'm feeling like this, me knowing that just because I have a puppy who's obsessed with me and cannot live without me, it doesn't bring me out of that, you know? You have to be in a space where you're practicing choosing yourself. And I know that sometimes that's the hardest thing in the world. And because you don't also, if you are like me and don't have a ton of practice with this, this is not a neurochemical pathway that you have in your brain that is your default of where to go to get this like reassurance and validation, to get this like sense of like belonging and being needed from you wanting to live your life. It's hard. But it can be done, it can be practiced, and it should be practiced. You deserve to be loved the way that you want, but also the validation or that like filling up that hole or that insecurities that you're experiencing, you can't put that on somebody else to do all of that work for you. I'm still learning. You know I am, but I wanted to share because I know what it's like. I know how it feels. That feeling of like, it feels like you're like dropping inside of your own body, and like your body is like this endless pit of like just falling. But recognize what's activating you, what's putting you in that spot. Do something about it. Because you can. I know you can. Thank you for sitting through this hardness with me, this roughness, this activation. I know you got this. I know I got this too. Come back again anytime you need. But know it's possible and it can be practiced. Becoming and practicing either secure attachment or just being in a place where you're practicing choosing yourself. It can be done.